Welcome to episode 5 of Express Talk, and for this week, I am with Rob Taub. Thank you for joining me.
Pleasure to be here.
So, like every week, me and my guest, as you see on the format, I scoured the dirt sheets to look at, the most intriguing news or, news that I want to get my guests' thoughts on. So, I don't know if you've heard, but very recently, Cody Rhodes and Brandy Rhodes signed with TNA, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this.
I read about that too. I it plays off the fact that they're both mad and that Cody was not happy with WWE, and they did have a running to the relationship, but also that I think once one person leaves and the other person, they say that relationships in the wrestling business they're really hard to keep, but I think that they both wanted to be together. I think that they're both going to get better opportunities in TNA. I mean, I heard Brandy Rhodes, I was told that she's a good wrestler, that they didn't. I mean, I know they used her in NXT for a little bit, and I know that Cody Rhodes was coming up. He's been around for almost 10 years, and ever since he's been around, he's never really found his niche. And I think that, I think them together is going to be it'll be a perfect pairing.
I think I can agree with that logic that, both of them didn't get the opportunities in WWE, but I'm just a little iffy on Cody joining TNA so soon after Sandow did, because Sandow just joined recently too.
I think, most of the time, those type of guys who get paired together for a long time, they become friends. And I think that maybe, I don't know if Cody did a little bit of brainwashing to Sandow, because I don't know if he was doing independence after he left WWE. But I think that those are the kind of guys who, they were just never used the right way. And I think that they see, I wouldn't say greener pastures, but they see a better chance to do something more in maybe a lower status company like TNA, even though it is always going to be behind WWE, because WWE is the end-all be-all. But I think that guys like Sandow and Rhodes, they need to be somewhere where they can be successful. And I think that Sandow, coming right after Rhodes just entered TNA, I think it's a perfect storm, because with TNA up for sale, to try and get as much good talent on the roster is very difficult. And I think bringing in guys of that caliber, it'll not only help with the sale, but it'll help generate a little bit more, a little bit more pizzazz to bring it to the sale.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, I don't necessarily agree, but I can understand that it helps with the fact that the company is up for sale. And for those who are listening or hearing this for the first time, I do know for a fact that it seems very likely that by the first week in October, I think it's either the first or second weekend, I should say, in October, we will have new owners of TNA. Either Billy Corgan, I think it's either Billy Corgan, Sinclair Broadcasting, who also owns Ring of Honor, or WWE. So, by next month, we'll find out who owns TNA.
I think it'll be WWE. I just think, I know Ring of Honor is, I know they're pushing, but I think WWE is just going to make a ridiculous offer that they can't refuse.
With that being said, and the topic being brought up, do you think that WWE purchasing TNA would be a bad thing?
I really don't think so, because as you've seen, they've taken TNA talents, former TNA talents, and put them in NXT on a path to succeed. I know that, listen, they have to take their lumps to get onto the main roster, but I think TNA could be like another breeding ground, like behind NXT, but it could also give more like superstars, like lower card superstars, a shot on another show. Like I don't think it would be terrible if they bought TNA and they do something like they had with Thursday Night Main Event, where they had a show, and it was for but it should be for newer talents, like newer up and coming talents, and maybe lower card talents that could can work matches. I think if they got TNA, I think if they purchased TNA, I think it would be a great acquisition, because it'll just, I know it takes away another place to work, but it just adds on another element of what WWE can do for the future and for the future of the sport.
That's an interesting take. So, and that's basically what I was telling people, that if it's good for wrestling and it helps the business, then yes, WWE purchasing TNA is a good thing. But if it hurts the business, then no, WWE purchasing TNA is not something that's necessary, and I'd rather any other company, whether it be Sinclair or even Billy Corgan, purchase the company.
I'm all in on WWE getting TNA. I just think it'll work itself out in the end. And like I said, TNA has some good talent. They do have Matt Hardy. They got the Hardy brothers, and I know. And I think also if they bought TNA, I think it would be an easier path to get Kurt Angle to come back for a part-time deal.
Mm-hmm.
Which I really would. I would love to see him come back.
Yeah,
one of my favorites back in the early 2000s.
Yeah, you and me both. Do you think that if you were in WWE's position and you had the ability to purchase TNA, and the first week in October rolled around and you were the surviving purchaser and you purchased the company, would you take the company off TV and just do away with it, or would you keep it on TV and try and keep it, as an ECW type thing like they had a few years ago?
I would definitely keep it on TV, because listen, it's another television show. It's more exposure for your product, and like I said, even if they do it like an ECW style, it's another night of the week that you have wrestling on, and it's still appealing to the younger generation, and it could also still be appealing to the older generation, the hardcore wrestling fan. But I think that taking it off TV would be a massive mistake, because if you put different talent together and create good storylines, you're going to make money and you're going to get viewers. You look at Monday Night Raw goes up against Monday Night Football right now, which is one of it's one of the hardest things for them to overcome, because everyone's still watching football on Monday night. But you take even Tuesday Night SmackDown, which I think they're on their way to becoming they're still the number 2 show, but they're doing it the best that they can. But Tuesday nights, sooner or later, you're gonna have NBA is gonna be back, the NHL is gonna be back. You take it night, if you put on a Friday, you put that TNA show, or you put it on a Wednesday, or even Thursday, whether it's TNA or whatever they want to call it, it's more exposure. It's going to bring in more money. You'll have more people on the roster that, in case people get hurt, you'll have people who would want to work on that type of show, especially if they make it seem like an important show. Because I think, based on what I've seen the past 2 or 3 years, they've made NXT really the legit number 2 show. Because they basically buried SmackDown because they would not do their own storylines. It would just be an extension of Raw and then go to pay-per-view. But NXT was literally the number 2 show for WWE.
I agree.
I mean, but I think with TNA, when they buy it, I would not take it off television. I think it would be a huge mistake unless they're just gonna take it off, rebrand it, and then just totally blossom it into something else.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd be like, okay, if they're gonna give it a few months, rebrand it, put it back out there in their own style, then I'd be like, oh all right, that'll work. But I think taking it off TV immediately would be a terrible decision.
I agree. Do you think that could be I think a few months ago Kevin Nash said something like, the best way to get people interested again is to have a late night wrestling show where you can have a PG-13 show because the younger viewers aren't going to be awake to watch it.
I don't mean to cut you off. You got to remember something. It used to be WCW, ECW. ECW would sometimes go on at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night when they were on regular television. It took them a while before they got prime time, 8 o'clock. But you look at what's called, when you go to a regular show and they do before the show, they usually have another show before the main show, and they have dark matches. It might be a little late, but if you did that in a different format with bringing in TNA superstars, bringing in a TNA type show, and you put it late night, I think it would actually work because a lot of TV viewers late night is where you'll get a lot of adult viewers. You'll get sometimes you'll get kids who are staying up, but it's more if you made that show TV 14 or even 314. I think you get a big viewing because, like I said, the hardcore wrestling fan will stay up to watch the show, even if it's just an hour or even if it's a half hour. You don't need a show going until 1 o'clock in the morning. You can go to go until midnight. It's an extra extension. It's like what they used to do with Tough Enough. And what they used to do with, the Diva Surge. It would be on an hour after Raw or SmackDown because, it kept the viewers tuned in. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I think it would, I think a late night wrestling show would really work because if you're bringing in another element and another brand, and you want them to succeed because you just bought them as an entity.
Yeah. I agree. Now, even though we could probably talk for the remainder of this episode about, this subject, the next thing, and instead of, having it be two separate things, I'll combine them together. Thoughts on the Cruiserweight division, particularly thoughts on the new Cruiserweight champion, TJ Perkins, and the Cruiserweight Classic altogether.
It's unfortunate. I did not get to watch much of the Cruiserweight Classic. I know TJ Perkins did win the title, and I know he's going to face Brian Kendrick. Was called at Clash of Champions, which I think is going to be a phenomenal match based on what I saw Monday from Brian Kendrick. Mm-hmm. But I think the Cruiserweights are going to... It'll take that hour of Raw, that 25 minutes of Raw that sometimes can be a filler, and they could turn it into something special. Just like what they did, just like what WCW did back in the late 90s when Eric Bischoff brought in the Cruiserweights, and sometimes they were the hottest part of the show.
Yeah.
But and I forgot the other two guys' names. I forgot the other guy's name. But like what I saw from all three guys during the match was like it was awesome. Like you saw the athleticism, you saw like the uniqueness of the cruiserweights. Like there hasn't really been that type of feel since Rey Mysterio left WWE. I mean, you don't get those type of guys anymore that literally will fly around the ring. I mean, you had Sin Cara, you had Kalisto, but it's like they're being used for squash matches when they were pretty exciting to watch. But I think these guys that they're bringing in now are going to turn the show on its head, because they could close the show, they could open the show, or they can be used in the middle of the show.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that thus far, I think the brand split has favored SmackDown, because SmackDown has done a lot better in my opinion. But I think that this is, the pendulum is going to start swinging towards Raw with the finally the debut of the cruiserweights.
I think with SmackDown, it's like, listen, when you watch that draft, you can easily tell that WWE wanted them to be the number 2 show. It was so crystal clear, because they gave Raw 3 picks and they gave SmackDown 2 picks. And basically it was like, you want these shows to be even, you want them to go head to head. And I think that SmackDown, like I said, SmackDown's they've done a good job, but and from what I've seen from both shows, it's like there's really, other than the Kevin Owens win, I've seen nothing that's really wowed me. Nothing's really taken me by surprise, other than the Kevin Owens winning the WWE what's called the Universal Championship, which I think is one of the most ridiculous names in all of entertainment. But I think that both shows need to branch out, and I think SmackDown could be better than Raw on most nights, but it's also the star power. You have John Cena, he's still the man, but you see him now, he's only being used part time, and when he comes back, it's like he comes back. But it's like, other than that, SmackDown, I'm not seeing much progress, other than what I think is one of the most underrated parts of the Divas. Like I heard, Alexa Bliss is fantastic. I think Becky Lynch, perfect female to hold the title. But you look at you have Natalya, you have Naomi, you have Carmella and Nikki Bella. They need to expose them more, and they need to expose the undercard more. That's the way that they're going to beat Raw. And Raw most of the time beats itself. With some of the segments, it's really ridiculous. It's very easy to point out when they're just trying to fill time and they don't care.
I completely agree, and I didn't say anything because it felt to me like you wanted to go on a little bit of a rant, so I just let you have the floor.
When it comes to wrestling, listen, it is fake, but there's elements of it that you want to be excited. When I watch a show, I want to be thrilled. That's why I became a wrestling fan. It's guys like The Rock, guys like Stone Cold, guys like The Undertaker. They wowed you. Guys like John Cena, when he first came out, he broke the mold. You have guys like Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. They're great to watch, but I need more aggression. I need more anger. I feel sometimes they don't want it to be too real. It should be, though.
Yeah, that's true. I don't like, plugging myself, but this in a way, it goes back to a discussion, one of my most recent monthly discussion with legendary referee James Beard, where we discussed psychology in the business and how psychology, both in and out of the ring, is a lost art. Like, just that logic in the ring isn't there anymore.
I read about, like, what some of the old-timers have to say about the psychology in and out of the ring, but I think that you also get to know what the crowd is, not what the crowd expects, but, like, what they know is going to, like, turn them, like, get them off their feet, like, get them out of their seats. That's what I think that WWE sometimes misses the ball on. Like, there's only been a few things in the past few years that's really, made you jump out of your seat. And, like, one of them was Shane McMahon jumping off Hell in a Cell, which you knew he was going to do because it's Shane McMahon, and he wanted to, like, they were going to make it a moment for a McMahon, like they always do. But it's like, they don't have those, like, there's not many moments on, like, just a regular Monday Night Raw where, like, fans are jumping out of their seats. Like, there's only a few times that you'll see it, like, over a span of weeks, where a match where, like, it'll, like, you're glued from start to finish.
Mm-hmm. I agree, and that, could be somewhat of the problem, and that, in all honesty, that actually may be why, the first Final Deletion match was so heavily praised between Matt and Jeff. Because it was something we haven't seen.
And, like I said, I haven't really paid attention to TNA. Like, the last time, I'll be honest, the last time I was watching, Aces and Eights was basically the hottest thing on the show, and they were fighting they were fighting Hogan and Sting, and it was just like, that was like a new Invasion type angle.
Yeah, and then it ended up falling flat. No offense to TNA, like most of the things that they do, but
yeah.
But once again, no offense to TNA. Well, speaking of TNA, the next thing on the format is something I actually started last week, called the Russo Spot, and it goes into, I go into in the, description of the thing for me and the guest, that it basically details how Vince Russo changed wrestling back in the Attitude Era with his booking style. And I give you the opportunity to say, if you could change anything about pro wrestling now, it doesn't matter, what was it, a particular gimmick, a booking style, anything, what would you change?
It's a tough question to answer in like one sentence, because there's so many things I would love to change. Listen, I would love to see them go back to the Attitude Era style, with, blood, hardcore, say whatever the hell they want on television, no holds barred. But I think the biggest thing that I'd like to see is, I want matches that, I want, who I see now, who I see as the future of the business. I don't want to see squash matches. I want to see legit competition. I don't want to see, 3-minute matches. You want these guys to be monsters. You want these guys to appeal to the crowd. You got to put them in, I'm not saying highly, high up matches, but you start going slow, but don't give them just 3 minutes to work. Give it about 10 minutes just to see what you can work with. Guys like Braun Strowman and Nia Jax, they should be fighting people their division. They should be fighting those in their in their division. I I just don't like the squash matches. I want to be entertained. Like, I know, like, our generation has the shortest attention span out of any generation, like, known to man. But as a wrestling fan, 3 minutes is not enough time to make me say, oh, I'm gonna keep watching. Like, I want to see, like, how much more, like, brutal the guy can be, how much more brutal the girl can be, how much more athleticism they have, how much more, like, what, like, are they good with can they be a good promo, like, can they be good with promos? Like, I want them to give more opportunity. That's basically it.
I was a little, yeah, I can understand where you're coming from. It's, it might be too outdated to do squash matches, but yeah, I can understand where you're coming from.
See, I mean, like, I've read that, like, WWE wants, like, they have writers from all over the place, whether it's, soap operas or reality TV or whatever, but it comes to the point that, like, when creative is writing, like, they need to know that you want the audience to invest, because those are the people that are paying to see the talent. Like, I think sometimes with the way they have creative, it's like they're strained. Like, it's different now than it was in the Attitude Era, because back in the late 90s, like, the world was changing, and, like, TV was way different than it is now. It's so much more censored now than it was back then. But you could still break through that fourth wall little by little by just do something a little different each and every week, and it'll catch on. That's why it caught on 20 years ago. That's why it caught on 10 years ago.
I see what you're saying. And it's unfortunate that, I guess, things are so protected nowadays, unlike they were even 6 years ago in 2010. Now we came to the part of the show that I basically like to, give the, guests the opportunity to, shine the light on whether, an independent company as a whole, one talent, both independent company and a talent, but now I give you the opportunity to, pick out your indie company of the week, or your, your obscure wrestler of the week. It could be a current star, a former star,
Obscure wrestler of the week, Paige, because, I've read that WWE doesn't want her to have a relationship with Del Rio, and it's almost like a CM Punk AJ situation. But this girl came in and she was built up to be the next Divas champion, and now they say women's champion, but she was she came in the night after WrestleMania, and wins the Divas champion. Who does that? And now, her fall from grace has been it's been really tough to watch, because she's such a good talent. She's good in the ring. She's good on the mic. I think that, I know she got hurt, but I think that there's something about her in WWE that, almost just don't go together. She's a wild child. I've watched Total Divas with her, and she's a little bit of a wild card. But she's my obscure wrestler of the week, because you can't blend fiction with actual love. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I can understand that. Yeah. Speaking of that, do you think that wherever Alberto goes, that's where Paige will follow, or you think it's more likely Paige goes back home?
I might be nuts. I think Paige stays in WWE. I think that she's still valued by the company. I mean, dude, she's only 23, 24 years old. You know, it's hard to believe she's still that young. But I think that once they get her back on television, they'll start to like really push her back up. I mean, I know she's had some heat with the company because of this, but I think that I think they'll let bygones be bygones, and she'll, you know, they'll let her, you know, do what she has to do. I mean, I don't think she's gonna leave. I think if she left, it would be a total hit to the Divas division. I know that like they've gotten a lot of new talents who are, you know, starting to really make a difference. Like I said, Alexa Bliss, Carmella, but it's like I still think that Paige is one of those that like she could be a veteran and she could really help like younger talent.
That is, yeah, that's definitely interesting. I wouldn't I mean, at this point, I don't know what is going on with Paige in WWE, but, you know, I guess we got to take the wait-and-see approach.
Yep.
Now, much like last week when I introduced the new part of the show, this week I'm going to be also introducing a new part of the show, and it's called The Turn, which basically is, you know, a way to keep things fresh and unexpected, and maybe, you know, I guess, you know, force in some forced to talk about some other things, you know, just try, like, it's basically, you know, I'm throwing stuff at a wall and seeing what sticks.
Yeah.
So, if there's anything, you know, non-wrestling related that, you know, you'd like to bring up or want to talk about, the floor is yours.
I think you might like this one. If you thought about, like, because we're both hockey fans, and like I actually I did an article a few weeks ago about who would be a heel or a face of guys on the Islanders roster, the New York Islanders roster, and I've had the thought of, like, in the NHL, who would be a good face and who would be a good heel in like WWE, who are NHL hockey players, and you know, I was trying to like narrow down my list, and I look at a guy like, you know, like a guy like Crosby being a perfect heel. He wins and he cheats, and you know, he doesn't have to say much. He just does what he has to. He's a little bit like a Seth Rollins, where like he backs it up with his abilities, and like I don't know, you take a guy like Subban, be a perfect face. I mean, definitely would appeal to the crowd because he's got a fun-loving exuberance about him, and you know, he can get you hyped up. I remember watching him on one of the like the TV shows, like behind the scenes, and like the way he was in the locker room, he was hilarious. He was fun to watch, got you pumped, and like, you know, but like guys like that, like I really like if they ever decided to switch, which would be insane. But you know, who do you think would be a good heel of the face? And don't just say John Tavares because he's your favorite player.
Well, you basically read my mind. I think Sidney Crosby would be a perfect heel in wrestling. Just, you know, how basically every away crowd reacts to him. He would be the perfect heel.
Can't think of anyone behind him?
Other than him, no. I can't think of anybody that would fit that role perfectly.
I think Ovechkin would be a good one because he's Russian. He can't speak the language. People would just boo at him.
I mean, I think Ovechkin could be a decent either way. Could be decent either way because he seems like a fun guy. Maybe Jonathan Toews or Patrick Kane.
As a heel or a face?
Face.
Well, I mean, I think Kane would be a heel because people don't like him and he feeds off of it. I mean, he's a winner, and he's like the best in the world at what he does.
Yeah.
And I think a guy like Taves would be a great face. Like, he'd be a good heel because he's got that smirk, and he's got that he's got that look about him that just like someone you want to punch in the face.
Well, it just seems like they're like I don't want to, compare it back to wrestling, but it seems like they're, the John Cena, because they're like the winner that either you love or you hate.
I mean, Cena gets too much, but that's because he's on top of the company for, 15 years. It's the same way it was with Hulk Hogan. He's basically the modern day Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I'll throw you one that, could be a really, you could say Tavares could be a great face because, like, he just does everything right. He can't do anything wrong. And, he doesn't have to do much to, get his point across. But I think, he's not an Islander anymore, but I think a great heel would have been Matt Martin. Because he's just like, he's got the looks. He's like, people love, he's one of the most, he's one of the nicest guys off the ice, but players hate him on the ice. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, now that he's in Toronto, we could, talk with it. We could say whatever the hell we want about him.
Well, if you want me to pick a face, then I would have to go with Jaromir Jagr.
Oh, that's a good pick. He's basically like, it's hard to describe who he's kind of like in the locker, who's like on the roster right now. Probably you can't even say Cena because he's like 10 years older than Cena.
Yeah.
Like 6 or 7 years older than Cena, but he's more of like he's like a Jericho.
Yeah, that's who I was thinking of.
He's won, and he's been on good teams and he's been on bad teams, but he's always been like one of the best players in the world. Yeah,
I completely agree. That's I guess in the same regard, to bring it full circle, he is sort of, or Jericho is the sort of Jaromir Jagr of the NHL, or of WWE rather, because it seems like he gets better with age.
Oh yeah. Let me just say, Chris Jericho's promo work is like, I literally laugh my ass off whenever he's on TV.
Yeah. And him
when
and
he calls people stupid. He calls people a stupid idiot.
Yeah, he's the only person to get something like that over. I think he's the only person that could get something like that over.
I think Kevin Owens is a phenomenal heel. Like,
yeah.
Any word that comes out of his mouth, like, I'm glued to that, because, like, he's someone, like, you would, because he's a Canadian. Like, all the guys, like, all those, those heels from Canada, they just get under your skin. Maybe because we're American, maybe we just sometimes don't like Canada, because they beat our ass and everything. But, especially hockey.
Yeah. Well, whose chemistry do you think is better, Kevin Jericho with Tom Phillips, or Corey Graves with Tom Phillips?
Oh, definitely Kevin Jericho and Tom Phillips, because Phillips is trying to keep that, like, from laughing. Like, you could see it in his face, because he's trying to keep a serious face. It's actually it's funny to watch. But I love when, like, Jericho, like, he pauses and then he makes him say it, and then he puts his finger up like this. Literally, I'm dying in my chair whenever he does that.
Yeah, I can agree. I loved Corey with Tom Phillips, but Corey's good with pretty much anyone, and I think his chemistry is better with Byron than
Absolutely.
Tom.
Byron Saxton, I like him as a commentator, but he gets crapped on so much, it's hilarious. It really is.
Yeah. One of the better parts of Raw.
Oh, yeah.
Well, now we've reached the point of the show where if you have anything you want to, build up or, give shout out to or, plug yourself, once again, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I mean, listen, wrestling right now, it's like I said, WWE is the end all be all. I mean, sooner, like, we're going to be getting close to, like, November, and then, before you know it, WrestleMania season's gonna be here. I think some of the storylines now, Seth Rollins, like, they're gonna have him fight Triple H, which I think it's gonna be a passing of the torch a little bit. I think when they gave him the title, that wasn't really a passing of the torch. That was him doing everything he could from what he's done in his career. But I think this will actually be Triple H's last match, because I think this will be a passing of the torch type thing. Like, this is going to be Rollins' company now. And I think Kevin Owens, Roman Reigns, or whoever he fights, because I actually, believe it or not, I think he's going to fight Jericho. I think Jericho's going to turn on him, become a face, and they're going to have some of the best, they're going to have some of the best promos in probably the last 10, 15 years. I think I might be crazy to think that's going to happen, and then you got the Divas division. I love Sasha Banks. I love watching her every single week. She's one of the most entertaining I've seen in a while, probably since like Trish Stratus and Lita. I mean, you do have the Bella twins, who have been entertaining, but like, I don't think they ever really got like to the exposure that they should have got. But like I said, it's all about, like, it's developing the characters more. That's my thing right now. Mm-hmm. I mean, I love seeing more character development, because I like I know it's fake. I like realistic type what's called attributes.
Yeah. I can understand that. And you speaking on the particular talents that you spoke on, I completely agree with your comparisons, and I don't want to say diagnosis, because I don't know if that's the right word, but let's go with it.
Yeah.
So where can people find you on?
You can find me Rob Taub _ on Twitter, and Rob _ Taub 25 on Instagram. And if you want to follow me on Facebook, just look up Rob Taub. Basically all three.
Sounds good. Well, for you, the listener, thank you for joining us. And if you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more content just like this that you can only find right here at Wrestling Express. Till next time.